hello and good evening. I missed the Kentucky Derby. I missed the Academy Awards. But you never know what's in the future, do you? Welcome to Positively Positive. This is my talk show, my podcast. It's called Positively Positive, and I am Susan Mintz, the host. This show tonight is so exciting for me, and I have seriously dressed up for it. But you'll have to wait just a few moments before you know why. You are going to be in for such a surprise. Anyway, Positively Positive is called Positively Positive because we take HIV or AIDS and we put it where you can see the faces of it, the organizations of it, the community of it, the people all over the country who want to tell their stories. Positively Positive is just that. If you have a story in any way, whether it's governmental, health department, personal, loss, compassion, volunteering, you want to tell your story, we'll send you a little link and you click on it and you can set up a time and you can be my guest. And we have an hour to talk about whatever it is you want to talk about. I interview you, but every story, every person, 20 some odd episodes, 25 episodes maybe already, we have HIV is your common thread. So anything related to it, male, female, in between, we're fine. So I am Susan Mintz, and this is Positively Positive. The other thing is the reason why I am so dressed up tonight is not because I need an excuse. This is the way I love to dress up. However, I'm involved with Positively Positive, and I'm involved with HIV for the last 40 years because my late husband, who I've been a widow 30 years, and my late husband, Dr. Jeffrey Mintz, who I loved, still love, and am committed to love, which is the name of my book. He was a bisexual, extremely promiscuous, and he died in my arms in 1994. I documented my life and his illness into my book, Committed to Love. And then I put another book out called And I Held Their Hands with a Hospice Heart because I put some of my life into other people's lives. So I am an issue writer, challenging obstacles, getting forward, going forward, faith, hope. 24 chapters in each book. And every one of them, at some point in your life, you will, I promise you, have to deal with something. Take HIV out. You'll have fear of a diagnosis. How do you tell your family? Baby steps, making plans to go. How, this, why, when, what. My books are life's issues. But I love this man who I met when I was 11, and he was bisexual when I found out into my marriage. But the Lord told me to stay with him. So I have stayed and I was committed. And to this day, I know that my ministry, my mission, and I am commissioned to talk about HIV wherever that takes me, because we are the only show that's doing this on a regular basis, not just a little interview for 30 seconds on a channel. No, we have 45 minutes to an hour where we discuss HIV in a format that I don't even know the guests. A little bit of bio on some I know. But in general, there's no show like it. It should be sponsored by a drug company or an infectious disease group or condoms or anybody who wants to promote HIV and AIDS in a healthy format where we talk about it openly, honestly, and you see the different faces of it. So a sponsor for this show is what we want, because this show should go national. My books, Committed to Love, are available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. They are only $22.95 each, which is much better than a dinner you might get out. And I always say the next day, it will not look like the same thing. Committed to Love, my journey of love and loss with hope and faith. And I held her hands with a hospice heart. And now I'm going to tell you why this guest of mine has me so excited. I'm not even high from pot or drinking. I'm so clean right now. However, I'm high as a kite because of this guest. I've wanted this guest on since the conception of Positively Positive. I've never met him, but he has been on my Facebook page and posts all the time, probably for years. My jewelry is so cheap, it's getting caught on my fishnets. But I am dressed up. Tiffany's, Cartier. But he's always on my Facebook page and is always responding. And I finally sent him the link. I said, I won't say his name yet. I said, I want you on my show. And he agreed. He clicked on the little link. And the only thing I'm going to tell you about my guest is he loves the arts. He loves fashion. And he likes mannequins. So put art together with fashion and mannequins. And then I'm going to say, I put on a lot of makeup. Phillip Porter, come on into the studio.
Oh, that's great. I love it.
He's very clever. I take the glasses off when I introduce somebody, but I wanted you to see the whole thing since I know you love fashion, you love the arts.
Well, I have to tell you, you certainly rival anything I saw at that Met Gala. Honestly.
I've never needed an excuse to dress up, and my late husband I could do no wrong. And you have a red bow tie on.
I do, just for you. So we're kind of matching today. You got your red feathers. I've got my red bow tie.
It's all the spirit, my darling.
It is.
Anyway,
yeah.
Phillip Porter, as I introduced you, all I said was, we've been corresponding on Facebook. And I wanted you on this show. And all I knew was that you were from Spokane. Well, you live now in Spokane, Washington. You are the first from Spokane. And also that you were in Dallas. You went to an art school. I'm going to back you up to the beginning. Art school, fashion school, and mannequins. So you're going to take me on the Phillip Porter journey. You were born in a town I'd never heard of. What is it?
Well, I was actually born in Gregg County, but I grew up in Gladewater, Texas.
Where is that?
That is down there in East Texas. It is near the Kiel. It's about a 1.5 hour drive to Dallas and a half an hour drive to Shreveport on I-20.
Oh, so you're right in between Louisiana and Texas.
Pretty well, yeah. A little bit further more to Texas, though. But yes, ma'am, in East Texas.
You have some beautiful artwork in the back.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I can tell already you are in the arts. But anyway, so you were born there. So take me on your little journey where you went into your art school, everything. I mean, there's so much I want to know about you. Tell me.
Oh, my goodness. Well, art was always my outlet. It was something I was always able to do. Like you said, things happen. I got picked on a lot in school, and the art was my way of just shutting everything and everybody out and creating. And that's been a constant in my life now for near 65 years.
Why were you, I'm going to write notes every once in a while because I'm going to write a book eventually. So you were picked on as a child? And where, in high school, middle school, when?
Oh, this was just about from the beginning. I was a little bit of a effeminate boy, is putting it mildly, Susan. I mean, that's just putting it mildly. And of course, back then in the 60s, most people were not ready to admit that and not want to see that. And it is so funny now because I've got so many classmates now that are gay. And, some of them picked on me. And it's like, years later, they were like, gee, I'm sorry. I'm like, we were kids. So a lot of people having to pretend to be something they're not just to get through daily life, even as a child.
Did you draw or sculpt, or what was your thing with the art, though?
Well, it started out with just pencil drawings when I was, very young. And of course, after we got into kindergarten, we had a art class, which got us into sculpture and, other forms of art, 3D art, drawing with different mediums, chalks, pastels, things that I had never seen before in my life. And kind of just took it from there, stayed in art class all during high school. That was the one place I felt happy and safe. And like I said, it's just always been a constant. I was very blessed in 8th grade. I was picked to do the covers of our little newsletter that we had in middle school. So I always did the covers on that. And of course, in high school, I was in yearbook and designed a couple of covers and the art for that. So it's always been like just something that's always been there for me and always will be there for me.
It was your safe place. It was your happy zone. It was a place you could retreat into. That's where writing was for me. Writing was where I could take this stuff that's in my head and get it out and put it out. So, when you're in the arts, I don't care what form of art, whether it's acting or sculpting, you got to get it out of your head or you'll explode.
And the thing that I like, and you can probably agree with this, is like, I don't have to think about it. It just comes out. It's just so easy to me. And it's like, I've had a lot of people comment about some of my paintings about they have a lot of symbolism to them. And it's like, when I stop and look at it, well, I guess, darn it, you're right. I didn't plan it to, but a lot of it can do with what's going on with my life at the moment or what's going on with politics or, anything like that. The COVID situation, I created a lot of pieces during that just to express my frustration and sadness about, losing so many people. So it's kind of the way I speak to the world.
That's wonderful. And you sell your art?
I do sell a few pieces. A lot of the things I've done here lately, Susan, have been commissions like tattoos and like paintings and things like that. I recently did something last year for a friend of mine who, dear friend, I've known her for years. We're still in touch, whose brother was dying of cancer. And he was always big brother to her out of the 4 brothers that she had. She was always closest to him. And she wanted something that would symbolize their, connection, for a tattoo for him and for her before he passed. And that turned out to be like a big brother holding the little girl's hand with her holding a balloon and her looking up at him and then walking. So I was just given the idea and I ran with that. So that turned out to be very successful.
So you'd say, though, that you were effeminate as a youth, as a young boy.
And I still am.
And you're perfect for me. Oh, this is so good. Forget about your education. I want to talk about what you're dealing with the red bow tie. But this is what's so good. So you still are. And so thank you. You still is effeminate. But what about when I want to get to those, and you went to fashion school also, though, right? Besides art, you went into fashion?
I did.
And what did you do with fashion? But Dallas were your schools, right? You went to Dallas.
I went to Dallas Fashion Merchandising College in 78, and that was a 2-year school.
All right.
And of course, I drank all of that in. I specialized, of course, in back then what we call display, which is now visual merchandising. It's they called us display, then they called us visual merchandising. Now they just call us unemployed with all of these headless figures and egg-headed white things that scare the daylights out of me, but we no longer have the realistic mannequins, and the elaborate sets like we used to, because that's just a thing of the past.
Of all the things that you have done, I mean, the other thing is, though, tell me, I have mannequins for head. I have a lot of wigs. So I have mannequins and they've got the wigs on them. And every once in a while, I think I should put eye makeup on them or lipstick and dress them up. But I haven't gotten into that, but I've been wearing wigs for years. But I always look at, so when you said, though, mannequins, that's what I want. I want to know about mannequins, what you do, but also I want to know where the HIV connection also comes in. Is it from friends or how did that come in?
It is from losing so many friends, and having so many diagnosed. You had a friend of mine on here recently, Lisa O'Brien, and we were in East Texas at the same time. And she was not joking when we said we had so many deaths. It was such a sad time for all of us. It's just, you had to have about 5 suits in your closet because you were going to so many funerals that frequently. It was sad. It was just a horrible time in life, of course, but thanks to people like you, we talk about it now and we put the information out there and people are more informed and people aren't scared to talk about it or ask about it or, avoid it.
It was Lisa O'Brien.
Yes, it was.
Who said that you would make an amazing guest. And she also helped prod you a little bit into that. But
And
anyway, so you lost a lot of friends in the 80s, the 90s, and before the meds. Are you on any meds? Anything connected to you, or just?
No, ma'am, not connected to me. Shockingly, I am still negative. I don't know why I'm still negative, because back then were very promiscuous times, especially living in Dallas. I didn't do anything less than anybody else was doing, but I'm very blessed in that area. But then again, it has affected me because so many really best friends and people that I love, it took them. We're just, they're just not here anymore. And it's so sad.
That's I was dealing with it with Jeffrey too. We had so many people pass, and he wouldn't have stayed on medication. He wouldn't have done that. He lived the way he lived. But I just remember writing eulogies. I was writing eulogies for people. I was giving out marijuana. I mean, I wasn't a dealer with money, but I had bags of pot all the time, and I was giving it to people who couldn't keep the food down. I mean, I was the pot lady in Houston who was giving out bags of stuff to people, and I was always getting literally bales of it were given to me because they knew I would dispense it to the right people. But it was just a horrible time, and it's just, I mean, God bless you. I mean, that's the truth. You're here then today because you're supposed to be here doing what you're doing, spreading the word that it's okay now to talk about it, get tested, know your status. You can have a healthy life.
And, despite the fact I'm negative, I do get tested pretty regularly because I want to stay on top of this.
You bet.
The sooner you find out, the better it is nowadays. Of course, back then, as you know, with the, the nausea and all that, it seemed like the medications that they were prescribing back then, it seemed like they made you worse than helped you get better. Oh, it was bad.
Yeah. For Jeffrey, the AZT and that stuff made it worse for him.
It did. And I actually believe in my heart, I can't scientifically prove this, I think it might have shortened lives. Yeah,
it was a rough time. But again, writing saved my life, because if I didn't document the story, if I didn't write my life down, I wouldn't have been able decades later to produce this book and this other book. So to me, writing was my safe place. Art is your safe place. But now tell me, and so the HIV connection is because you've lost so many friends. You get tested regularly. You are negative, thank God. But tell me now about the mannequins. This was so fascinating to me. What do you do with them?
Well, the mannequins started out as a small child. For some reason, I've always been fascinated with them. I don't know what it is about them. But
just headshots, torsos, full body, what?
Oh, full body and bust as well. And, usually mostly full body. Those stores were using them in armies at the time. And of course, they're handled a lot, and they're, touched a lot. They're bumped into a lot. They're knocked over. They needed constant maintenance.
Yes.
And that is where I came in. As I got older, my very first job back in 8th grade was with JCPenney down there in Gladewater, Texas. And of course, I wanted to do the windows, but I was also a stock boy. But my mannequins were in horrible shape, and they had mannequin refurbishers were so common back then. People would come through about 4 times a year, sometimes renting a motel room, taking all of your mannequins and refurbish them. Sometimes they would bring a horse trailer, and they would do the work in the horse trailer. And I was so thrilled to find out that my mannequins were going to be refurbished. I can't tell you what a horrible job they did. And that's when I started stepping in, doing my, trying to fix what they did wrong, learning what materials to use and how to paint the faces and how to paint them and, get them back into good shape, how to get them to stand up straight sometimes, because some of them, they didn't stand up straight.
It's like a bad facelift.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, when you go in and you think you're going to look really pretty, and next thing you know, you come out looking like a mannequin.
And there's nothing worse. The person that did my mannequins at Penny's, I swear to God, they must have used a toothbrush to do the makeup. I was not there. I was in school, but the makeup was just horrid. So, that's what, me being an artist, that's what got me started, working with them. And not that I was trying to protect anything. I didn't know that I was going to be dealing with mannequins all these years. But, the little store down the street, the Tot Shop, saw the work I did. Then they wanted their mannequins done. And then Kay Woolens wanted their mannequins done. And then, of course, after I got into fashion merchandising college in Dallas, I was working for the big stores up there because they needed help as well, even though they had other refurbishers up there. I mean, sometimes I can pat myself on the back, my sample mask, I got picked head and shoulders over people that had been in the business a lot longer than I had because of my commitment, how well I could do the faces. And the wigs, we had to deal with wigs. You brought up wigs. They all wore wigs. So, you had to be able to style them and, keep them up to date and all that. So it was like just kind of an ongoing, never ending. Next season would come around. They would need the newest makeup, and it just never stopped. And it kind of wound up snowballing. But of course, my passion was display and working with them in the windows. So, like I said, you just accidentally get into things that you don't think you're going to get into. And it turns out to be absolutely fabulous.
There's absolutely no plan in life that you can really predict. It's like my website says, everything is about healthy choices. And that's what you get, a choice. Maybe it's not the best one. Maybe it's the best one. And you learn, I don't like mistakes. I don't like negativity. I don't deal with that stuff. To me, you make a choice. Maybe it was a good choice, the best one, but things were going to keep coming along. It's like with this show. I didn't plan on it. I've been planning on it for 20 years. I didn't plan on going on someone's podcast and telling them, Richard, I want my own show called Positively. I didn't expect, I did. And then all of a sudden I was prepared for it as this character. And I even put on the long fishnets for you. You got to admit, I do look.
Well, I tell you what, you would fit in at the Kentucky Derby. And like I said, you would rival any of those costumes I saw at the Met Gala, honestly.
I'm telling you. And the jewels, Cartier on one hand and Tiffany on the other. We are bedecked.
We love it. We love it.
So but are you working in stores now? Tell me where you are then right now with the mannequins and what you're doing.
Well, due to the fact that they don't really, use them as much anymore, and the ones that they use are from China, and they're really, like you could replace one before you could pay me to refurbish one. They're so cheaply made and they're so cheap, and they just, like I said, they scare the daylights out of me and small children with those hideous faces with the weird features or the eggheads. I mean, I understand the millennials decided that mannequins look like corpses in the windows, the realistic ones, and that's one of the reasons we don't use them anymore.
Yeah.
But also, I have to say, the big stores, they can afford the talent. They can find the talent. The little stores would never be able to find the time, the talent to pay somebody to do it as it should be done the way it used to be done.
No, it's not, because I grew up in Troy, New York. There were only two large department stores, and there were mannequins. And then when I lived in Gainesville, but then we moved to Houston. Now Houston had Neiman's and Nordstrom's and the big Galleria. There were mannequins. They were bedecked and bejeweled in these stores, and they had the puppies on the side, and then they had the baby carriages. I mean, these were actually, you could almost talk to them. They were so real.
And no expense was spared back in those days.
Not at all. I mean, you stared in windows. It wasn't like Christmas when you just go by, you see another tree and some pretty gift. These were people. You really swore that these were live people in the windows. And there were at times, but that's not mannequins. But I know mannequins would take a lot of abuse, because one of the stores I was in, the arm fell off or the nails fell off or something. They were always getting abused terribly, but they were taking them out of the windows and somebody break a leg. So it is an art. So your art came into fashion. It all kind of went into this one thing too.
Well, and like I said, I can do some bragging. I work for some of the finest stores, and still occasionally, will. But most of them, especially now, since it's not so common, is like really restorative work on antique pieces. Like some of the, busts that I've got, some of the antique heads that people buy and want to put on display, but they're a mess. And like you saw my boudoir doll that I'm working on that a friend sent me, that I'm doing the hair and makeup and on. I'm making the costume for her. That was the one that you commented on Facebook with the blonde hair. So it's becoming more a restoration of like dolls and, mannequin parts. And sometimes I will occasionally get lucky and have a realistic mannequin that a collector will want redone. And that's kind of how I keep my hand in.
It's wonderful. And it's a dying art, literally.
It very much is. It very much is.
And the ones you're getting from China, I know they're like plastic. They look anything but real.
They look anything but real, and breathe on them, they fall over and they break.
Are you, where you live in Spokane? Tell me about Spokane, and tell me about the doctors there and the health department there. Tell me, I'm not familiar with it at all. So tell our listeners about Spokane. How'd you end up there from Dallas?
How did I end up there? Well, I lost my parents, one right after the other. My mother died of, lung cancer. And of course, me being an only child, I was kind of, I all of a sudden became the parent overnight. I was not prepared to deal with any of this, but you have to deal with it. So, once that they had passed, I needed a total change from everything because I was so worn out. And I originally came up to Seattle, which is where I really wanted to go. And I had met somebody online, not necessarily a dating thing, a friend thing. And it made it safe for me to go up there because at least I knew one person. And I got up there. I lived up there 20 years, worked with Nordstrom's doing the mannequins and the windows for a while. And they had done away with that after a while. They still do the windows. They still have the abstract mannequins. But I had gotten into a situation to where, like, I had a roommate that was not exactly financially responsible, and she lost her home. And I was living there as a roommate, and she didn't tell me. And I found out by the knock on my door, you've got 6 months to get out. We're taking her home. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Well, I had managed a Halloween store over there, and I just closed my store. This was around the end of October. And I had a friend that I'd met online from over here that had to come over there for services that the vet hospital could do that the vet hospital here could not do. And she just said, okay, you're between places, you're between jobs. Why don't you give me a ride back over to Spokane? Just check it out. See what you think about it. It would not hurt. So I gave her a ride back over. And I had my clunky little van that I'd had for a while that I loved. I named her Doris. And we decided one night in the middle of the night, we wanted McDonald's. And I mean, I am not at all familiar with Spokane at all. And it's pitch black. I'm trying to get to where I need to be. And I'm on one of the main roads. And all of a sudden, these headlights are coming towards me in the back like this. I got slammed into, spun around twice, slammed into a barrier by what I assume was a drunk driver. I'll never know. I just saw the tail lights. They just kept going. And my van was totaled. So as a result of that, I kind of got stuck over here. But, Susan, as you know, things happen for a reason. I've got friends now that I met over here. I've got my dog that picked me over here that I would not have. And these will be friends for life that I would not have met had I not gotten stuck over here. Yeah. And it is an absolutely wonderful city. And I have to do some bragging about their all the medical things that they do and how open they are. Anybody that needs help can walk in and get help without having to worry about a bill or anything like that. We've got a lot of, like our HIV patients, that's the one thing they don't have to worry about if anything happens to you over here. Wow. Is getting treated. They are so giving, and the doctors are absolutely fabulous. You're never rushed out. If you have questions, they stand there and they listen. I can't say enough about it. Really.
That's so wonderful. That's so wonderful to hear, because living in Palm Beach County, we have tremendous resources, and yet there's the really wealthy one side, and we still have another area where it's poor. It's, I don't know, the big socioeconomic stuff and the lesson, what's it called, disenfranchised, these big words. No, there's some that are really rich and there's some that are really poor. Palm Beach County is very diversified. My issue is that what do you do if you don't have internet, if you can't afford your cell phone, if you don't have transportation, if you don't have housing, if you don't have, and the government's not going to give it to you, what do you do? You're saying that your city is a very well networked city for people who would come there if they needed HIV help.
If they needed HIV help, if they needed help with housing, if they needed help with anything, the city would help them get it. And the county would. Nobody is turned away.
That's a wonderful thing.
If you're sick and you need to go to the ER, you don't have to worry about that. And they will tell you when you go in there, the one thing I don't want you to worry about is a bill. Because they will definitely take care of you if you come up here. And I hope that will catch on, and that will be that way everywhere here one of these days worldwide. That's a lot to hope for. Is
Spokane, Washington, in the United States?
Oh, of course it is. Yes, it is. It's got its own little planet here. I know. It's very unusual. I did not hear about that type of help over in Seattle.
Yeah. And tell me you have a dog. What kind of a dog?
I have a dog. He is a little poochie or a chew-pee, whichever you want to put it. He's part Chihuahua, part poodle. His name is Oscar. And he is just a deer. He actually belonged to my first residence over here. He belonged to the neighbors across the street. And the Woolses, of course, they're like family to me. I watched their children grow up. And, of course, they had Oscar. And I would go visit, and that dog just got attached to me. And it was so funny. He would have a fit when I would come to visit. He would be so depressed when I would leave. And one day Linda just told me, you have to take him. He's picked you. So,
Oh,
he's been
no.
with me ever since, and I probably had him for about 10 years now. He's getting a little bit older, sadly. I hate to see him, get in this shape. He's definitely a little bit deaf and definitely a lot blind. He's got cataracts, but he's still Oscar. He still plays like a puppy. He is so social. He loves all people and all animals. And like I said, we're just blessed to have one another. When I can't talk to anybody else, I can talk to him, and he listens.
Absolutely. Yeah, I have to laugh because we had a schnauzer. We had a miniature schnauzer. That was our kid. We never had kids or wanted any. But anyway, I don't know if you know my story or you've got my book. I mean, I don't know. But so the dog's ashes are up there on a shelf. So is Jeffrey. Because when I'll tell you, yeah, Jeffrey's on the shelf next to the dog. So right away, people who've heard that at times would think I stuffed Jeffrey like I stuffed the dog. When they stuff animals after they're dead.
All right.
No, Jeffrey's not stuffed on a shelf. He's in a box, ashes next to the dog. But it's so funny, people's reactions to certain things. And the other thing is, do you always wear a bow tie, or was that dressed up for tonight?
I'm dressed up for tonight, but I started collecting bow ties, and I've got about 100 of them. I lie to you not. I worked at a call center named West here that is now no more, but they would have bow tie day. And of course, I would participate in bow tie day. They would have other days too, but bow tie day was especially fun for me because I could go out and buy a new bow tie to wear just for that day. And sadly, not everybody participated in that, but I kind of got addicted to it. And then I started getting compliments, like I look like I'm supposed to wear bow ties.
You look smart.
Somebody said it's kind of that nerdy looking thing, but I mean, that's okay. I can be a nerd. I don't have a problem with that. You can call me anything you want, Susan. Just don't call me late to dinner.
And also that scientist, Bill Nye, the science guy, he wears a bow tie. So I think when a man wears a bow tie or puts on glasses, they automatically look intelligent and unique. So you have a pretty good group. Are you part of a group up there? That tell me about where you socialize and what you do.
Well, we socialize up here. I'm right in the middle of, like, I call it Gay Central. I mean, literally, there's a gay bar 2 blocks down that way. There's one 2 blocks over. There's one next to that. There's one a block away. So there's never. And of course, the drag brunches, we enjoy doing that. I work a lot with the community doing alterations for some of the entertainers up here. And I do alterations in general, too, for anybody. So that's kind of a connection there. And, of course, I do work, and they give me tickets to shows and tip me pretty well. And, well, come watch me at the drag brunch. And that's how I networked and met people when I got up here.
And that's what I would love from you. I would love to have a person who does drag as a guest.
Well, there's just no shortage of people out there.
Ask them, tell them about this, what we talk about, because HIV connection, there's always that undercurrent, but the main thing is
the perfect candidate for you, and I'm going to give her a call as soon as we get off here. She's involved in the royal court and the community in general, kind of one of our big drag mama divas in here that, could probably speak more to things like that than probably I could, because she's more out in the community than I am nearly on a daily basis. But I'm going to give this person a call and send them a text and let them know about my experience. Maybe send some links, and I think that would be perfect.
Yeah, you can send.
She loves to be an advocate, so it would be perfect to get the two of you together. The way Lisa got you and me together.
Well, you have the link. You can send that link on to her, not the link for the show.
To do so.
Not the link for the show. The other link that you click on the calendar.
Yes, ma'am.
If not, I'll send it back to you. But that one's because I would love to interview somebody who does drag, why and how and when.
And like I said, so heavily steeped in the community, as she is,
Then how is the gay community up there really? I mean, how large is Spokane? Or you spoke Spokane?
Well, if you're going to ask me population-wise, I couldn't come up with a number off the top of my head, but it is a very big, small town. Everybody grew up here. Everybody went to school together. Everybody knows everybody. I've even had classmates that I've ran across on the streets that were just visiting up here, and I had no idea that they were visiting. It's just, it's like that. You cross people's paths.
So it's a big, small town.
We call it a very, very, very big, small town. It's got that small town flavor to it.
A big, small town. But the other thing is, do you live in a predominantly gay area where the clubs are and the bars are?
I'm right in the middle of all of it.
So you got a show every night. You got whatever you want to do every night. It's really convenient.
I will never be bored. That is for sure.
How wonderful. But do you feel any stigma up there?
I really, I really don't. We occasionally will have like the gay hate crime where, somebody will be by themselves and unfortunately, run across the wrong people and, get a little bit hurt. Luckily, never anybody is hurt too bad. It's more like they just want to slap you because you're gay. But, we do have a little bit of problem with that, but I guess everybody has a problem with that everywhere.
Yeah, but I think from what I know of Washington State itself, you're pretty kind of okay with a lot of stuff. It's a pretty good state.
But absolutely, it is more progressive than people give it credit for. We're kind of on top of like a lot of things that other states aren't even considering yet. Like I said, the healthcare up here, I'm hoping that will catch on, everywhere,
I like your governor. I think you have a very good governor. Not to
Oh,
get
he's
political,
awesome. He is
but
awesome. He is
I
great.
followed him. I think he would make a great presidential candidate.
I absolutely agree with you, and we're hoping that happens one of these days.
Well, you tell him there's this lady who dresses up in Boca Raton, Florida. You send him an email or you send him a text and you say, there's this lady in Boca Raton, Florida that says you should run for president. He would
I
probably
will absolutely do
he
so.
would do
Yeah,
well. So tell me though, do you have a partner now?
I do not. I have been single probably now for oh gosh, decades.
Me too.
Decades, literally. I think the last relationship I had was, back in East Texas, and even it was a couple of decades before that. I don't even remember the last time that I, was with somebody, and I don't remember why we in particular, parted, but it was amicable.
Yeah.
But, I'm just not really a, only child here. I can make my own fun. I don't necessarily have to have somebody attached to me.
Yeah.
I'm sure you can relate to that because I know you know how to make your own fun. Now,
Yeah.
I will date occasionally if I see somebody that I'm interested in. I have no problem making the first move, and we will try it on for size and see how it works. And usually we still part friends. After dating a while if it doesn't work out. But not really in the market. My life is kind of I'm not going to call it upside down, but as you know, I am working on an autobiography.
That's what I ask you if you
on that, and that's keeping me pretty busy. And I also got a wild hair and decided to write a children's book about my dog Oscar and his best friend Sammy, who's a weenie dog. So it's all about the adventures that they have, and of course, I'm doing my own illustrations and really excited about that. Because they're both red dogs, and what can two red dogs at the same time get into? All kinds of things.
That is phenomenal. And I was going to ask you, because your story is so interesting, what you do. My guests are fascinating, whether they're whoever they are, they're fascinating. But that's what I was going to say. Are you writing your story because you have a great flow with your life journey,
I am not as fascinated with it as everybody else is because I was inside there living it. But anybody from the outside looking in, oh my God, you got to write a book. So, finally people twisted my arm and I finally got down and, with the writing, it's kind of like you. I can't read my own handwriting, so I have to type. But it's kind of like with the art, the words come out. And I can just write and write and write and write and write. And I was getting concerned about the content. No, keep writing. There are editors that can edit that down.
Yeah.
Just write. And I probably told a few things about myself I probably shouldn't. But, people want to know. And I have no shame about anything I've done. I have no regrets.
No, when people say your life is an open book, mine's $22.95 on Amazon.
Well, hello, and I'm about to join you here one day. Here, hopefully, pretty soon, I will get it wrapped up and figure out how to get it out there.
Writing is therapy. People are not. What I find fault with people today is the rule, and I'm very stereotypical with this right now. I'm stereotyping because people are afraid to be themselves. They feel they have to look like this person or be like that person or sound like that person. What happened to the person that you were supposed to be?
Susan, some people worry too much about what other people think. And I've got that. I guess I lack that gene. I mean, even from a small child, I never gave a damn. Yeah. And I still basically don't. I'm just me, and if you've got a problem with me, that's your problem, not mine.
You and I have so much in common. Even after the show airs later, we're going to keep in touch because we share so much. I had a brother and a sister, but they were older. So I grew up pretty much on my own. And Jeffrey was an only adopted child. So it was he and I. Wherever we went, we had friends, or whenever we went, it was theirs. But when he died, even then, I have great friends, but I'm really good with me. And that's to say the
Yeah,
writing helps with having, there's always something more you can do. That do you want to do it, or you just want to sit around and feel sorry for yourself?
exactly. Well, what really amazes me is it's like there's the life you've lived, and then there's the life that people assume you've lived. And it can
Yes.
sometimes, I mean, my God, the embellishments, you would have think I have swung from every chandelier from East Texas to Seattle to Spokane. Really, I haven't. I just, I've
No.
had a wonderful life as a trans person. And I'm still enjoying it today. And, that word trans regret, I don't understand that. I mean, I did what I did. I said what I said, and I have no regrets. I had a wonderful time, and I'm still having a wonderful time.
Well, tell me about this trans person that slipped in there. Tell me about that. I didn't catch that one.
Oh, you
What?
didn't know? Well,
No.
I grew up as male. That's my, birth gender. I almost said birth sex. We don't say that anymore. We say gender. But from a very young age, I started living and dressing as a trans woman. And I did that for 35 years. And well, you're looking surprised. I thought you knew all of this.
No, I didn't want to say anything in case I was wrong. I was thinking it and I was feeling it and I thought I knew it, but I didn't want to say anything for fear I was wrong. And I was going to say, "Are you a trans person?" I wouldn't have come out right if you weren't. So I was being,
I guess I'm still a trans person. I don't know. I'm living as my, birth gender again. And like I said, I was happy back then and I'm happy now. But that was quite the life for me. All my entire life, aside from the mannequins, I've always felt more female than male. I never understood why. From an early age, I thought I was a little girl because I played with the little girls, and that wasn't nature or nurture. That's just who I was. And from an early, I carried this around for years, and then started seeing articles about Christine Jorgensen and Wendy
mhm.
Carlos and all of that. Like when I was still in high school, even, and thinking, "Gee, does such a thing exist? And could I do this?" And I found a psychologist in Dallas, and he decided I was a good candidate, and we started doing all this. And I started dressing as female for the required 6 months as per the Harry Benjamin standard back then to make sure that it was right for me. And then you get on the medication and you live full time, and basically, you're living as a trans woman. And I have to say that I had a very charmed life. I was a Kim Dawson model. I was an NFL cheerleader. I later on became a topless dancer later on in my life. And I was in so many bridal parties. I was invited into so many sororities like a lot of trans people don't get to go into. So it was very charmed, very, not without its bumps along the way, you understand. But, looking back, I just treasure every minute of it, even the hard times.
So you went through some procedures or stuff to become more like a woman, or tell me about that.
Well, I did have my chest reconstructed to look more female. And of course, when I became male, I had to have it reconstructed again to become male. But I never had any other surgery as far as like, genital reconstruction. We used to call it sex change surgery. Now it's gender reassignment. I never really wanted it. I mean, even though I felt like I was a little girl when I was growing up, even in an early age, I knew what little girls had. I knew what I had, and I never wanted what they had down there. I was okay with what I had. I wasn't one of those extreme cases, God bless them, where the children are trying to cut their genitals off with clippers. But like I said, that's a lot of that. And of course, there's more about that in the book. But like I said, it was just an extraordinary experience. And I certainly got to see the other side, from experience in, having so many women around me all the time.
Yeah.
So, you get a little bit better understanding of what, happens and what they go through and all of that. And like I said, it was just a very blessed experience to give me like a new view. Now, probably the next question is, why did you go back to your birth gender? And I have the joke, I have a medical excuse. After I got up here to Spokane and got, was applying for insurance, doing all that. Of course, when you apply for insurance, as you know, they run you through the mill and they check everything out to see if they're going to want to insure you or if they're not. And I was lucky to have a PA who was asking, well, is there anything unusual about yourself that because she was kind of fascinated. And I said, well, I've always wondered why I felt this way. I knew I was a little boy. I knew I was a man. Why couldn't I feel more like a man than I did, a female? That's always puzzled me. That's all, Gemini's, that questions in the back of our minds, they never stop. And we did some testing, and it turns out that I've got a very unusual condition to where like I could never produce my own testosterone my entire life. And that's why I was so much more effeminate. That's why puberty was just a blip. I got a little bit of an Adam's apple and
Yeah.
no facial or body hair, no
Yeah.
change in voice. And always wondered why, always wondered why, always wondered why. And, that is why. And of course, the recommendation for that is introducing testosterone therapy. And once we did that, I can honestly say I finally started feeling okay, accepting that I'm a guy. And it was the darndest thing. It wasn't like a light switch. It was gradual, but, and I didn't just wake up one morning, but, it's like I started feeling like I could, be more like a guy. I was curious to see how it would feel to be more like a guy. That
This is
sounds
so
ridiculous because I am a guy, but it was, really my answer. And like I said, I have no regrets as anything that I've done, but that's what happened back then. This is what's happening now.
So you were born you basically though you were born a boy,
Yes.
and then you went through this phase when you were a girl, but not with anything more than just the breasts. But then you were lacking testosterone in
My
your
entire
body,
life, my entire life.
and that's one of the reasons you felt and looked and was the way you were. But
Yes,
now,
and that, as soon as that was described to me, God, that answered every single question I've had about my life concerning
yeah,
that since I was a small child. And it's so wonderful to, like, after decades, getting an answer finally that
finally,
makes some sense to me.
because
You
that's what I
know,
was going to ask you if you had testosterone shots or
I
what
do that now. I do that now.
you do that now.
Yes, I do that
So
now.
you call yourself transgender, a man? What do you call specifically? You say you're a man.
Oh, I'm a man, and if you want to, they call this what they're calling it. The people that go over and then come back, they call it detransitioning. And okay, fine. If you want to tell me that I'm detransitioning, that's fine. And if you want to call me transgender still, that's okay with me, But I'm basically, Susan, I'm Phil.
That
That is
is
my description of myself,
that's
the one
so
and only.
marvelous. That's
And
so
what
wonderful.
and what a wonderful experience to have and to have. What a wonderful experience to be able to live through, if that makes any sense.
Well, you explored yourself. I mean,
Absolutely.
that's what we are. We are exploring beings in our own body.
We
We
absolutely
explore.
are.
And you were born one way, but you didn't feel comfortable. And then one day, decades later, you find out why this is this and that's that. And then it starts making sense. And then you gotta redo it a little bit and tweak it a little bit. And
Yes.
that's just the way life is, whether it's this thing or not. You just constantly are tweaking it to find out what's that perfect thing.
For me, yes, the perfect thing for me. The perfect thing for you, the perfect thing for me. We all, you know, like I said, we all deal with something. And I think a lot of people, it may be other things, but it's wonderful to have a concrete answer. I tell you, it certainly will turn your life around, because you
Yeah.
realize now you weren't crazy. You weren't being a sissy. You were being who you were.
Yeah. And the other thing people will say to me, well, I couldn't have done what you did. How do you know what you can do until you're faced with it?
Well, have you tried? Have you been faced with it? Have you tried? I mean,
I
we're a
mean,
lot stronger than we think we are when we're
of
faced with
course we
something like
are.
that. Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I love this man. He was bisexual. He cheated with a lot of men. He got very ill. Celibacy saved my life, but we still had a relationship, and the friendship was incredible. They said I couldn't have done it. I could. You don't know. You don't know. I wasn't beaten. He didn't take all my money. He didn't rape. I mean, he just was. I had a little thing once in a while for a man, but I got all the perks. I still had all the stuff I wanted. But I loved him. I still love him. This is me. And when someone says, I don't know what it's like to lose a child, I don't know what it's like to do a lot of things. And you can't tell somebody because it's your life and it's your journey. I'm so happy you're writing it down. Do you have a lot of transgender or retransitioning or whatever it's called, friends?
Well, it's interesting. I did have a lot of transgender females through the group meetings and all that, and we stayed friends for over the years. And sadly, when I started living as male again, I don't know. One of them, they kind of, I'm not going to say bailed on me, but it was just too strange for them. And I had one friend that admitted, now you're making me question myself. And I'm like, no, I don't mean to make anybody question anything. I don't use me to question your own decisions about your own life. You're a transgender woman. You're beautiful. It's working for you. But now you're making me think. Well, I kind of like that I make people think.
This is so wonderful because I really wanted to bring it up.
Right. And
But
strangely now, it's like I think I've got. Oh, I didn't mean to cut you off, but now I've got about 3 trans female friends that are still really close friends that we've stayed in touch that are not threatened by me, living as a male. But I have a lot of trans men friends, which is the females living as male. I've got a lot because I have so much in common with them, because they were female, now they're living as male, and like I said, we just have so much in common. I'm very blessed to be part of a Facebook group for trans men. And I'm accepted like one of them. And of course, I'm there to answer the questions that nobody else in the group could answer because they never were really male, or born male is what I should say. They're male now, but, they were not born male.
How do you feel about children? Let's say they're 9 or 10 or 13 and their parents are allowing them to go through this, and the little girl, or let's say you were, how old, 8 years old, and you tell your mommy, I want to be a girl and I feel like I'm a girl, and mommy says, we'll go to the doctor and you can become a little girl.
Well, these days, if a child is feeling that way, the state will pay for it, but I feel like such a touchy subject, but I don't feel like you really know who you are until you're grown. No. I mean, I felt like I was a little girl the entire time I was growing up, but, I didn't, medically, I did not do anything about it. There wasn't anything you could do. I mean, my mother took me to our medical doctor. Well, he needs to spend more time with his dad and his uncles. Well, I was spending time with my dad, but that was back then in the 60s. You got to understand, totally different, And like I said, now, like if a child wants to do this, even, they will, start the process. But that's very disturbing to me,
yes.
Like as a child making that decision and, the parents backing it up. I mean, there's been a few really, I kind of stay on top of it. It's kind of heartbreaking, but I mean, I've even heard on some of the documentaries, parents that wish they had a little girl instead of a little boy. So they start putting this little boy through this process.
That's awful.
And I don't think that's right. And I think that's going to hurt the child later on.
Definitely. I think the parents put themselves on the child. And I don't think any little child at 8 years old truly knows what they want to be.
Exactly. And of course, we have a reality star that was on there for years as a child going through all of this. Can't mention any names, just like in my book, I can't mention real names. But the sad thing about it is this child is grown now and has had like 5 gender reassignment surgeries and will admit publicly, I still don't feel like me. I think that is the saddest thing in the entire world, that you've done this, and it's not that they're not sure of what they've done, but they just thought that it would feel different once they had surgery. And, I've ran across that a little bit, it's like literally, like people that are grown, some of the people, they think once they have this surgery, I mean, literally, I don't exaggerate, they expect the little forest animals to show up and do their hair and makeup and dress them and follow them around, and the little birds do their hair. And, you're going to have, Susan, the same problems after you have any surgery that you had before you had that surgery, if you're not right.
The thing that's also troubling is I know of a couple of people personally who have committed suicide because they went through so many, not knowing what they were, and this with that, and they started one thing, they started another. They were almost caught in between, and they really didn't know. And it was like their world, they had nothing. They didn't know who they were. And I know 2 specific cases from Houston where I heard that they did that because they just went through so much, they still didn't know who they were.
Well, that's a pretty sad thing. It's like I realize, people feel that way. People commit suicide. It's never gotten so bad for me. I wanted to off my life. I mean, just one day at a time. If you are feeling like you're not doing all that great, wait until tomorrow morning. It will be a whole new day, and you don't have to do yesterday ever again. That's kind of how I look at it.
So in other words, you are Phillip Porter, the man, right now.
Oh, hey, with a bow tie.
I'm with Phillip Porter, the man, who I've been with Facebook for a long time and who's going to be with me. We are going to be messengering.
Oh, absolutely. How about this? I'm just so masculine.
A lot. I mean, I want that. I really dressed up for you. I really had to do it. I just said, this guy knows too much about art.
I'm so glad you did. I said, the
stops are out. Of course, it took me 5 minutes to put the whole thing together because it's all so cheap and trashy. But that's who you got right now, cheap and trashy. So you do encourage, though, people to get tested regularly?
I do encourage that. I think it's very important to stay on top of this, especially people that are, sexually active. I mean, even if you're playing safe, like when I do have sex once every blue moon or once every two blue moons, everything is safe. But still, don't let's not leave anything to chance. Let's go get tested every 6 months and see how we're doing, because the sooner we can catch it, maybe the sooner we're doing something about it. Of course, I'm pretty selective, as everybody should be, if they're going to get, romantically or sexually involved. I'm not just going to go down and pick up somebody off the street. I never have, done that. I'm pretty, like I said, I'm an
Listen,
only child. I can make my own fun. I can have my own, I can take care of things myself. Okay.
I wish we lived next door to each other. We
Oh,
would
we
have,
would have such a
oh
blast.
my God, I would love to live right near you. We would be next to
We
each
would we
other.
would just we would just take the clubs by storm and take no prisoners, I tell you.
I mean, you got a whole group of people I want on this show. That's for sure. But
And I'm
you and
going
I
to
could talk.
campaign. I'm going to campaign, and I'm going to get them on here. I can be
But
relentless. They'll find that
we
out.
could talk. We could talk for hours about
I'm
stuff and
telling
really
you,
get to
yes.
know each other. This has been marvelous. And I just want to make sure that I'm sure with you, though. So you would call, what's the term they use now? Retransitioning. What is that word?
Detransition.
D and the detransitioning.
Detransition, yes. And like I say, basically it's the people that have gone, all the way or as far as they want to go and then come back to live as their, gender assigned at birth.
How do the
And
doctors deal with what kind of doctors? I mean, what I know you can't just go to your GP and say I want to do this. What kind of doctors do this? Is there a specialty?
we have like a doctors that specialize in it, psychologists and psychiatrists that will help you out with this, that specialize in this. And, you can find them relatively easy now. Back then, I just had a phone book trying to find somebody calling psychiatrist. Well, you're crazy. You're going to go to jail. Men don't wear dresses. And I finally found Dr. May after I went to Dallas, and kind of like going out to the clubs. I met a few trans women and just, said, if I'm not being too forward, how do you begin your process? And they knew Dr. May, and Dr. May, God bless him, he was about 1,000 years old at the time, but he took up the practice because he wanted to help us out because nobody else was helping us out.
But
You know,
how does the surgery? What kind of a doctor? Is there a special type of doctor that does these surgeries with the breast augmentations or doing the penile when they remove the penis and make a vagina? Are there special doctors?
well, now the breast augmentation, that's any plastic surgeon, you can
Right.
find, they will do the breast augmentation, but the final surgery, there are specialized doctors that do that. And most of them are over there in, I want to say, oh God, I don't want to say the wrong thing. Most of them are over there in China because they're doing more of it more frequently and doing it better and cheaper. So a
In
lot of the
China.
girls, yeah, a lot of the girls go over there to China, or
Oh,
is it Thailand? I think it's more Thailand than
it
China. I
would
think
be.
it's
Yeah, I
Thailand.
don't think China would like that. They're very
Right. I
strict.
think it's Thailand, but
Thailand
Thailand
makes.
has,
Yeah,
any number of doctors. I know several people here in town, as a matter of fact, that have had the
yeah,
gender reassignment, excuse me, surgery over there, and they're very happy with it.
yeah.
So they
It
do
would
a
be
good job of it.
Thailand.
Yes,
Thailand's
Thailand,
open to
not China.
everything.
Yes,
No,
yes.
I don't think the communist China would like that very
No, I
much.
don't think so either. You're right.
But
Thank you for
Thailand is
correcting.
open to everything. I mean, Thailand is
Yes.
was always great with that.
Well, I would love to go visit one day, but not for that.
No, and
So the
I've
way
always
you, I will digress a little bit back. In order to have this surgery done, you have to be seen by two psychologists, and they both have to agree that
yeah.
this procedure is going to be right for you. And you have to have a minimum of 2 letters to take over there and show any doctor. And same thing in the United States. We've got Marcy Bowers, who I understand is back in Seattle now doing the procedure. And like I said, regardless of where you go, they want those 2 letters to make sure that they're trying to make sure as best they can that this is right for you. They're not going to let you do
Yeah.
anything on purpose that could harm you or you're not ready to do.
And also, there's some surgeries I would think that once you have them, you really can't undo them.
Well, the gender reassignment surgery for the males to females, which is what I was, yeah, they don't save your parts in a jar in case you change your mind. I kind of
No,
joke about that, but I'm being totally serious at the
no,
same
you
time.
are serious. No, there's no formaldehyde. Once it's gone, they can't put one back
It's
on.
gone, and of course they can reconstruct one out of muscles from the thigh or the shoulder or whatever, but it's not going to be the same.
I just think the mental part of it is as much as physical, though. It's got to be very mentally challenging for people to go to this level where they really have to find out who, what, and where they are. It
And,
must be
like
a
you were
nice.
saying, I've had good friends, that transgender women, friends of mine, that they're all about getting it done. They get it done. And then I'll get the phone call in the middle of the night. What have I done? And I'm like, well, you wanted this, didn't you? Well, I'm sorry, I did it now. And, I just am not happy or any happier like they thought they would be. And like I said, those are the ones that my heart goes out to. Just, think about this very carefully. Don't do this overnight on a whim. Well, they won't let you anyway, but you know what I mean? Just really, you really have to search yourself and keep searching yourself and keep searching yourself. And, don't do it because of peer pressure from, some of your trans women friend. I ran into a lot of that when I began, like in 1979. It's like, the trans women are like, well, you have to have, the surgery was considered the final thing, the cherry on the cake. And it was more like you were pushed to have that done. Well, I never wanted it done, and I got ostracized because I never wanted to have that done by a lot of the other trans people. But this is my life and this is my choice.
Do you
Just like
remember
your
the
life is your
movie?
choice.
I'm sure you know the movie, The Crying Game.
Oh, yes,
I just think that movie's brilliant. I think
it
it should
is.
come around more now than ever before. But I think that was the start of something. People were really shocked. I mean, that hit people real hard. It was a
Well,
great movie.
that, and I think that more people should be aware of it. I know trans people that have never heard of it, and I'm like, you got to watch it. You just absolutely do. It has everything, and it's a love story.
It is a real
And
love
of course,
story.
the movie Trans America.
Yes.
Don't get me started on that.
Yes.
But that's another way of getting a view into it, as to what we
Yes.
go through and all that. A lot of it was fairly factual, working on the voice and having to struggle to save the money up and all of that, and the family disowning you. And I had a little bit of that on my mother's side. But my grandmother started it. I praise God that my grandmother and I made peace with it before she passed on her deathbed. And she apologized in her own way, but she turned the entire family against me, because she said so. And, my parents were not affected by it. Nobody on my father's side. My mother was not affected by it. I had a couple of aunts that were not affected by it. But, God, getting the door slammed in your face on your own family because you're doing something that you think is right for you.
And even with HIV, the stigma still
Especially.
goes.
Yes.
I
Yes.
mean,
Yes. Yes.
I talked with one of my guests about the home testing kits. And my
Yes.
issue is that I don't think want to do it alone, because if you find out you're positive, that can be a big shock also. I
Mm-hmm.
think we have to be very careful with people's emotions and feelings. And we need to be kinder. I think that's my word for in the world today. More kind.
Accepting.
Accepting is a good one too.
Because
Accepting.
not everybody is just like you. Everybody's, hey, Susan, if we were all the same, we'd be bored to death.
Oh,
Seriously.
I'm bored now. I'm bored. That's why I dress sometimes the way I do. But I just think there's not enough kindness. That's one of the things about Ricciardo that I loved about him when I met him. I'm trying to get one of these cheap rings off. They're so cheap, they're catching on my fishnets. I love to admit that this character evolved over the summer, and I had no idea why. I was shopping at Temu every day and spending money on shoes and gloves and turbans and rings. And then all of a sudden I became this character, because in show business, honey, you need a little shtick.
You
And
need a little gimmick.
you
Yes,
need
you need
a
a little
gimmick,
gimmick.
honey, in show business. So
I've got
anyway, I
very
took
dear
all my
friend.
stuff off, cut off
Yes, I've got a
my
very dear friend.
circulation.
Yes, well, I think it suits you. I think I'm so happy that you do that. In fact, I watched the interviews just to see how you're going to be dressed.
Oh, I'll tell you, these gloves are so tight that it's cutting off the circulation in my arm. My hand is numb. The other thing, but I just think though that people aren't kind today, and I want to thank Ricciardo, and I always do. He is one of these people. He's got a full-fledged facility. I mean, it's totally LGBTQ safe space, but it's all testing and it's referrals, and he's the chair of the Palm Beach County HIV Care Council, which is multifaceted, multidimensional, with all the different agencies and organizations in Palm Beach County. He's the chair. And he's got a husband and he's got kids. And he's just the most incredible guy, who just sweet and kind and nice. And I couldn't do this type of a show with, I had some people come along every once in a while who said, "Oh, it's a great idea." I could feel in their spirit. See, I'm trying to get this off. I want freedom again. So anyway, I'm so relaxed now. I could have a joint, a martini, and we could be talking to each other. But
Oh, that would be fun. We must if we ever meet.
oh my God, just roll me a big one, honey, and pick me a nice
Oh,
dry
hello.
martini and hold the vermouth. But in
Well,
general, he's just
that's, yeah. Oh, I was just going to say, by the way, that's legal here in the state of Washington.
what? Yeah, marijuana.
Yes,
Of
yes,
course it is. I mean, it's so stupid the way it is in any way. You can get it anywhere you want. I know high
exactly.
school kids that could give it to me for nothing. But just in general, he was kind, and I knew I could connect. And he's, and the guests, we've had every different kind of guest on. And that's what I want. I want people to see all the different forms of people involved, community activists, governmental agencies, personal, trans. I wanted it all on a show like this. So I just want to make sure that I did say, Phillip Porter, I am so grateful for Lisa O'Brien. Tell her, say, this was wonderful. I want to just say thank you so much for being the most incredible guest, so different than anyone I've had. And I hope you will spread the word about Positively Positive, and that Susan Mintz will always be committed to love. That's how I'm going to end every show from now on. Susan Mintz will always be committed to love. And thank you for watching Positively Positive. But you are just so open and honest and wonderful. And thank you. Thank you so much. I'm just so grateful when I get high from these shows. I think that's a big part of it. When I don't have a show for a week, I need that. It's like a fix for me because I get high afterwards from this. You're bringing energy into me, and we're sharing, whether it's 20 people or 120 or 200, we're sharing information about something that no one else is talking about.
Right. Mm-hmm.
To think about it, there's no one else who has a show in this whole country or world on a regular basis like this. What's that tell you?
I am going to spread the word from the mountaintop, share the links, and sing your praises. And I'm going to get you a few people to interview.
There's a need for a show like this. That's the issue. There is a need to have Phillip Porter on, to have other people on of all denominations, all colors, all sizes, all shapes. That's what HIV is. I think it could bring people together around the world if my story were told, because HIV doesn't care.
Not
so
at all.
My story, committed to love. If you know anybody with Netflix, HBO, Hulu, Amazon Prime, who wants to see a love story with HIV come to fruition, and it's ready to be made, because HIV could bring the world together.
Absolutely.
It doesn't care what you look like, right?
It doesn't. It does not discriminate by any way.
No.
At all.
So this is Positively Positive show. Thank you for watching. Thank you, Phillip Porter. And I'm Susan Lee Mintz, and I will always be committed to love.
Well, fabulous. And to thine own self be true.
You bet.